Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Golden Key Design. Today we will be installing some kitchen backsplash. Stay tuned to learn how we do it. So here's our starting point. This is just painted drywall and it's been like this for a couple months, but we're finally ready to put some backsplash on it. I made sure to pull out all of the outlets and switches from the wall as well as the oven to give us some room. The hardest part of this whole process is honestly picking out the backsplash tile. I looked at a ton of different options, mainly looking at blues and then grays, eventually deciding on this gray glass tile here. Once you have your tile picked out, you then have to decide on a pattern. I had come up with 3 different types of patterns or designs and ended up deciding on this second one here on screen that's kind of a uniform centered look, but there's other ones like this one that are more staggered. It just kind of depends on your preference. But once the tile and the design's picked out, it's time to get to work. And the first thing you want to do is cover up all your counters. You might want to make sure that none of that gets dirty. So here I'm just using a cut up garbage bag, but you can pretty much use anything you want. And since my walls were already painted, I used a utility knife to give it some texture for the mortar to grab onto. Then it's time to start mixing up the mortar. Make sure you read the instructions on the particular mortar that you buy to make sure you get it to the right consistency. I'm using a specific mortar meant for glass tile here. And then you can start laying tile. I did these first 2 rows off camera just to make sure I was doing it right before I start showing you guys, but this went pretty smoothly. You just want to make sure that first row is very level because all the other rows will reference off of it. And then you're going to use spacers in between the tiles to make sure your grout joints are all uniform, and make sure you look up which spacers are meant for your tile. There's different widths. And then in this bedroom to the side is my saw that I rented from Home Depot. So that's the setup. So as you saw, the first step is to put on the mortar to the wall using a notch trowel. Here I'm using a 1/4 inch notch trowel. And then after that, you can put in your tile starting in the bottom right hand quarter and then pushing it up and to the left. And this spreads out the mortar nicely and leaves the grout joint nice and empty to fill with grout later. Then you can use spacers, as you can see here, to properly space the tile. And then you can move on to the next one.
Okay.
Why do you start from the bottom of the shot?
That's just how you do it. Bottom right.
Like can I touch this tile? Just like.
Yeah. Push it in place.
This pretty much becomes a rinse and repeat process, cutting tiles where necessary to go against a wall or around an outlet, which you can use that saw that I showed earlier in the video to do so. And here I'm putting in the last piece on the first wall.
Look at that.
This first wall took us about an hour or 2. It was a bit of a learning process, but we finally got the hang of it. And then we were able to finish the second wall pretty quickly. This one only took us about an hour as well. Once all your tiles are in place, you can then start getting ready for grout. Here I'm just taping off some of the sections of the cabinets to keep the area clean. And you can also see we put down some new plastic over the counters as well. And then once your mortar is fully set up, you can start removing all those spacers. At this point, we were strongly considering not going with the white grout that we had already purchased and going with something that matched the color of the tile because we thought this looked pretty nice. However, I ended up going with the white grout. And here I'm just removing a board that we had placed behind the stove to support that first row of tiles.
Are you ready? Seems like it's a smooth paste like consistency.
Now it's finally time to add the grout. We ended up going with that white, as I said, and I'm pretty happy with the results. And I learned that you can wet the surface ahead of time to make it a little bit easier. I learned that after the fact, but everything went smoothly here. Just make sure you try and wipe off as much of the excess as you can. And then once your grout has set up a bit, but not too much, you can come back with a wet sponge and start to wipe away all the excess grout. And this is a pretty fun process because you can clean up all of your lines and you can start to see kind of what the finished product's going to look like. This was a really exciting step. And here you can see how the pressure of the sponge kind of takes away the grout on the surface of the tiles, but not in between the tiles. This section here only took about 5 minutes, and it's crazy to see the transformation. Once the grout has fully set up, you can come back with a cheesecloth to clean off the haze on the tile, as you can see here. And just like that, the project's complete. Really happy with the way this turned out, and really happy with the white grout choice as well. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the design and the colors. And as always, thanks for watching, and happy building. See you next time.